Hello, everybody. My name is John. Welcome to In the Elvis Booth, the famous or infamous booth out of the Peppermill that Elvis would hang out after his shows. I didn't know what else to call it, so being a huge Elvis fan, I've invited, and I thank a really good friend of mine, Frankie, who's a local ETA artist, for being one of my first guests on the show. And it seemed fitting. I mean, got to have somebody to deal with Elvis on the show, for crying out loud. Frankie, thank you. I appreciate it.
John,
I'm not a host, so I don't have the most or any of that other stuff. Just no fat guy losing his hair. But I have been in music for over 40 years. I have a background with Elvis. I was lucky enough to have the honor of being invited to one of his private shows. The house was fantastic. And when he told me, he texted me and he goes, overlooking the strip and that, I'm driving way out Lone Mountain. I'm like, well, wait a minute, where? But you were right. When I got in that backyard, it was gorgeous. And the people were so nice. They really were. And it was a wedding, and those people just adored you. I mean, I stood back in the corner, and it was, okay, I've basically been involved in major concerts most of my life, and that over 40 years. But to be back close with people to where, you know, they walk up and say hello, and I get to watch the reaction of the people watching the show. It's something I do miss once in a while. I really do. Because that's the essence of everything. When you're on a huge stage, a few feet back, you don't have that contact. Mm-hmm. With the lights, you don't even get to see the people, mm-hmm. but you know they're there.
Well, John, it's a privilege for me to be here. The Elvis booth, it's an honor to be sitting here with you. Since I've met you, you've been a gentleman, and yes, I will say you are a gracious host, contrary to what you might say. I'm privileged to be being interviewed by you, and I'm very proud to be associated with someone that has and had an association with him. More importantly, someone who is a fan first, and that's very important.
Well, thank you for that, because I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan. He was a great gentleman. Changed my life from truck driver to being at 22. That's for another show. But Frankie was, as a lot of you know that have anything to do with me. For 5 years, I've been working on the Shadow of a King concert. A lot of ups, lots of downs, but very few people understand what it takes to put on a concert, let alone a concert that is about as close to what you would have seen when you went to see Elvis.
Yes, sir.
It's damn near impossible in some corners. I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate. It seems like, it's not going to work out. Then something else happens, and I get more momentum. I get different people involved. Mm-hmm. It's like we keep stepping up. We are planning on doing the concert next year at the Orleans Arena.
Awesome.
They have been unbelievably cooperative, great people. I had kind of looked around for somebody to do what they call sizzle reel. This was for Netflix and Showtime and that. And through a good friend of mine, John Seymour Films. Hi, John. Happy birthday. It was yesterday.
Happy birthday, John.
He's out doing a film in Arkansas right now. Oh, God, I can imagine that. But a friend of ours, Dot, who I do a lot of work with, Mirror Imaging out of San Francisco, had contacted me and said, look, I know you need somebody local, and passed Frankie on to me, and we got to talking, and bartered a couple of deals, and he came out and he did the sizzle reel. And then coming back, I'll post it later today on here, and he did a great job.
Thank you.
Cooperative, especially working around a bunch of people. He comes in here, we got the camera guy in a wheelchair, but it worked. it really worked well.
It was exciting. It was exciting for me because, I know that your heart's in the right place. So to be part of something that has Elvis's interest first, and for you to ask me to be part of that reel and meeting John, because I did get to meet John that day. That was exciting for me to be able to work with professionals.
Well, I don't know if we're professional, but it's very important to me that if I do this, one of the criteria is we do this show. It'll basically be the Aloha show with some changes in the music, because the original Aloha show, claim to fame, was the first one to be satellite like that.
Yes, sir.
He had already released a couple albums, one of which is That's the Way It Is, which is one of my favorite. And working with Johnny Spence and producing him, we used to do a lot of music from that. A lot of ETA guys never touched that. One being, that's a hard album to reproduce. It's not your regular songs. A lot of production. I want people to know, put it this way. After it's done, if I could hear one person walk out with their kids and hear the kids, them say, that's what it was like to see Elvis Presley, I've gotten all the pat on the back I could ever have, because it means that they now understand the production, the sound, okay, the feeling of being in the arena before and when he would hit stage.
It's interesting you say that, because from an artistic point of view, what you're describing is very similar to what I feel from an entertainment point of view. When I do my shows and when I do my performances, what you're describing, it transcends that into what I try to recreate, which is authenticity, which is a connection with the audience, a connection, a rapport with the audience. That it's one thing for someone to say, I really enjoyed him, he was fantastic, he was this, he was that, but off stage, you want that person to still feel the same way about you. And the only way you can do that is if you do it authentically, but also sincerely, and you have that connection, that rapport, that, as Elvis would call it, that when he said, I was missing that audience contact, is that audience contact, that connection.
Yeah, to the movie years, he definitely, towards the end, he couldn't wait for the contracts to be up so he could get back to it. And then when he did the 86, the 68 comeback, it was in the studio. I don't want to say fake, but everybody was put there. Everybody had a place in a part and like that. It's not like when you walk out on the stage and people they rush it. You can sit there and watch the difference in everybody's faces and how they act, like in the videos. But the contact at the Hilton, let's face it, that's another reason I want to do this show in Vegas. I want to bring back to Vegas the show that was built here, even though the rehearsal was at MGM in California. When a story I heard, when Gershel flew out to make the deal for the orchestra and all that, because Gershel was the house conductor for the International. And the deal was made with him, Colonel and Elvis, at rehearsal out there over bologna and cheese sandwiches and Diet Pepsi. Yeah, and even though Elvis didn't drink pop. But I always found that kind of humorous. The biggest deals are made over the simplest platforms.
That's true.
And what became of it was Gershel left with Elvis, And I know the man had to have first rehearsal with Elvis. Something in him had sparked. Because I talked to Joe several times years ago in regards to taking Johnny Spence overseas. We were actually talking about molding Johnny with Elvis's original show. And I was asked to come to Poland. And that would have been monumental. But powers to be, and the Elvis video screen thing was in production. I kind of like threw a monkey wrench in that for a little bit.
Is that so?
Yeah, they weren't real happy with me, but I don't care.
It's interesting you mentioned, God rest his soul, Mr. Gershow, because I saw a clip of him one time when he said Elvis's music wasn't really what he was into, but he says when he met him, he says the charisma that oozed out of this man was so immense that Joe Gershow said, I was captivated, blown away by his charisma. And from that moment on is when Gershow really was taken.
And a lot of people don't understand, okay, Elvis never wrote any music.
No, he didn't.
But when he put himself into a song, it basically became his music.
But and it's funny because he gets, and I like to make this point. I don't know if you'll agree with me on that. He gets criticized for covering a lot of songs and for not writing his music. But one thing I will say is that you have to remember something, and that's that at the time that he came out, he absorbed, all different types of genre of music, country music, rhythm and blues, gospel. And what he did was he interpreted it in his way, and he should be credited immensely for acknowledging and naturally, as an innocent kid, absorbing that music and making it his own. And as far as covering songs, because he didn't write them, yes, he would. People have to remember, you got to remember that back in the 60s and 70s, before the singer-songwriters came out in the 60s, it was a thrill to have Elvis Presley record your song. It was actually, you were doing that artist.
Well, it was for any,
you were
Johnny Cash or any of them taking somebody's song.
Exactly. It was a big deal to have a star of that.
That's why they have in Nashville the catalogs where artists would actually go in and sit and go through, all in the studio, go through songs and go on. Achy Breaky Heart must have been recorded over 600 times, and it just took the one time with the one artist in the way he was to make it fly off the charts.
I remember I have a bootleg CD of in 1970, I believe it was. Elvis introduced, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to do a song for you right now, and there's a young singer-songwriter out there that I'd like you to say hello to, who's got this hit song. And his name is Neil Diamond. And the song's Sweet Caroline. That, in retrospect, back then it was a big hit, but I can guarantee you that after Elvis gave Neil Diamond that kind of credit for the song, I'm sure a lot of people were turned on to Neil Diamond.
Oh, yeah.
So he helped generate a lot of interest for other artists. And another thing, too, is that Elvis would, a lot of people ask me, they say, how did Elvis help out his fellow entertainers? He would help out his fellow entertainers because in this way. For example, if he knew that a group that he liked was playing at a lounge or somewhere, and they weren't drawing very well, the way that Elvis would help them, the way that Elvis would help them retain his dignity, is that he would actually go see that particular show. And then he would see a lot of shows in Vegas when he was between movie breaks, and even while he was here in town. Although he was not supposed to leave the Hilton, he did sneak out and see other shows. And once the word got out that he was at a performer's performance, the rest of their engagement was packed. And that's how he would help out fellow entertainers. That's how he did it. He would help out fellow entertainers in a way that sometimes they were aware he was helping them out, but he allowed them to retain their dignity, and he allowed them to have a booked show the rest of the engagement the rest of their time.
Well, he was a huge fan of Liberace.
He was.
You would think, well, Liberace and Elvis Presley. But
they met in 50. They met in 50 at the Frontier. They met when Elvis was.
And then at the Riviera, Liberace had a house gig there, and God bless the Riviera. It's sad to see that one come down.
I don't like that anymore.
Because the Peppermill's right next door to it. He would rent space there and rehearse, And I talked to some people over there one way. We were in negotiations to do the Shadow of a King there at the convention center, and which had the sky boxes. I mean, it's a beautiful room. And just 4 months before it was to come down, I got the call from the lady that had signed, and she goes, "We have to cancel the contract because we got sold." And the ironic thing was, she goes, "I got a 30-day notice today."
Is that it?
And I'm thinking, oh my God, this lady been there for like 15 years. But when it came down, nobody knew. Because she goes, "I hope you don't think we signed a contract knowing this." And I'm like, if we'd only known, I would have pushed everything and been the last show there. Because that would have been an honor in itself.
Absolutely.
And now it's Elvis Presley Boulevard, that little strip between the Hilton and there.
I was by the other day.
So that was quite Elvis's little corner.
Absolutely. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to tell your audience that I'm a fan first and foremost. I adore that man. I just adore that man like you can't imagine. Like I told you, John, I love the way he treated people. He was an inspiration. I discovered him after the fact, but
And how old are you though, Frank?
I'm in my 30s.
See, you weren't even around.
No, I wasn't.
So that to me, all right, the way you feel about this guy and your love of the music and that, yet you never had the chance to see him live. And I see these kids that are so into him, and I go, but they have no concept of what you can. I mean, you can watch the movie or the video. That's one thing, but there's no way you can even touch on the feeling of what it's like to sit in an arena. The lights come down. The 2001 starts. I mean, the hair will literally stand on your arm.
Well, you harp on a good point, a great point, because if you research how his fans became fans, a lot of them will say, the moment I saw him, I fell in love with him. And I can honestly say, I was a young kid, but and naive and innocent to the max. But when I saw him for the first time, I remember somebody telling me, "You got to see him tonight. He's going to be, it's going to be on TV. You got to see him tonight." And when I saw him, I fell in love with him. I just fell in love with the guy. And the only way that could happen is if that person has the ability to touch your soul, to touch your heart with a God-given gift, a combination of charisma, a combination of permeating your heart with love. And that's the first feeling that I received from him when I saw him, was I fell in love with that man. And as an innocent kid, just a pure innocent kid. And I remember saying, the second I saw him, I remember saying, that's what I want to do. Just like a kid says, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman, I want to be that's what I want to do. And I worked at it. You did. Worked at it.
You did get your wish.
I did.
I mean, that.
Well, there's a lot of unfinished business there.
Oh yeah, but that wedding party, those people, young and old, even the young people were taken with you, and it was nice. It was refreshing. After you were done, I know you wanted to come over and talk with me, but I respected the fact that you went around and you talked to everybody. You shook their hands. You made yourself available for the for the fanfare of it, and that to me, when I see that, because my wife and I, like I said, we toured. Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Grateful Dead, Ozzy. Oh my God, it goes on and on.
Amazing.
And in what we did back then, we gave them their tour buses. They lived in our homes. We were one-on-one and very close with them. We looked after them. And I judge an artist or a band by the way they treat their fans, because I don't put up with that later. Now, there is a time and place, because, when you come off a bus, hair's all shit, and, haven't slept well and all of that other stuff, last thing you want to do is you walk out the door, like that. But very few people, and I have to say this, and we've been really honored. They love their fans. They know where, and Elvis, I mean, the first thing when you went to work for him was, you don't work for me, you work for the people outside that gate. You disrespect them, I hear anything, you're out the door. No second chances. That's where the paycheck comes, because we are employees of those fans. And he was very serious about that.
Well, that love affair began very early, because back when he purchased his first home for his mother, Audubon Drive, the neighbors would have complaints because you'd have a lot of kids converging on the house at Audubon Drive, waiting for him all night, waiting for him. And that love affair began early. And I'll tell you a story that you probably already know. When Natalie Wood was invited to Graceland, they rode up, and she was blown away and shocked that there were a couple hundred people outside and inside the gates on the lawn. And she turned around to Elvis and she says, Elvis, why are they all around your house? Up on the trees, on the walls, inside the property. A couple hundred. And she was blown away. And what he told her was, honey, they're my fans. They got me that house.
He was very tolerant of even the mischievous, okay? Because you know, the jump in the fence and running back.
The ones that put themselves in the box. Nailed themselves.
I mean, because there were 3 entrances to Graceland.
Yeah, the front, back, and the other one was.
The one through his dad's house.
Right, dad's house, front and the back.
That was in the back. It came through by the stables.
And most of the guys went through the back. Whenever.
It was. It was just. No matter where you walk around there'd be groups of people. Okay.
See, I'm trying not to ask, but I know you know something.
Oh, I know some, but it's okay. Anyway, let's get back to you.
Okay.
You've been performing in Vegas for how long?
I've been here almost 8 years, and everything takes time. When I first came here, I came here from New York, and being from New York, you think you know everything.
Well, I don't know. I've been to New York a lot. We worked in New York, for 3 years in the beginning, hauling out of the studios and bringing all the bands in.
But I learned a lot from a business standpoint being here in Vegas. Learned a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things, both good and bad. In 2014, the iHeartRadio Music Festival, they were here in town, and they had me. They producers called me up, and they had me.
Now this is a big festival. This isn't peanuts here.
No,
this is big shit.
Yeah. And I thought it was a joke at first, but they wanted me to do a skit, a 1-minute skit with Taylor Swift. I was thrilled. My phone was blowing up left and right. It turns out that the day of the shooting, the producer comes up to me and he says, "Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news for you." He says, "Which one do you want first?" I said, "Give me the good news." He says, "You're going to get paid the same." I said, "Give me the bad news." He says, "Well, there's somebody else, and it was a person of high stature. You can watch the video and figure out who it is. But there's a guy who's going to do the part. But you're still going to be in the video. We're going to put you in a cameo role." And I learned a long time ago, be a gentleman in this business.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
And
that's all it was.
You don't want to burn that bridge.
That's all it was.
Because you never know. Then a year later, they might go, the guy in Vegas?
That's correct.
He was such a good sport about it.
That's correct.
We want to put him in there. And I've learned that too.
Yes, sir.
Bite my tongue.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. And I did it. I just bit my tongue, and I wasn't upset about it.
I don't think you'd ever hear many people talk about Elvis hating anybody. I mean, his meeting with Led Zeppelin or with the Beatles. I mean, other than when he shot the TV out, which was a true story.
You mean the one of a couple hundred, I think.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he did not like this guy.
I know you're talking.
And for sake, I won't mention his name, but it's easy to find out.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know why that one irritated him out of the.
I know why.
Well, couldn't sing.
Well, supposedly on TV, he messed up the words to the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh.
And then he laughed about it, and Elvis just didn't like that very much.
Now I can see Elvis being. I mean, that's one that you wouldn't take
That's
away.
a story I heard. That was.
Oh yeah.
But it's the same person we have in mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the same word. And that person never could understand what he did wrong.
Well.
Okay. We have put that to rest, ladies and gentlemen.
But in general, Elvis, he loved people. He was a human being, and people have to know that. He was a human being. And the thing is, he loved people. You rarely, if ever, hear of an instance like that Elvis didn't like somebody.
Yeah.
If that was the case, it was an internal thing. It wasn't really so much.
It wasn't like he talked about it.
And as far as
the only reason it's ever remembered is because he shot the TV out.
True. And in general, entertainers from that time period, they loved him. They loved him.
And they were jealous of him.
And they were jealous of him. Here's the thing. I've been told, and I've seen interviews where an entertainer or a backup group of someone had already told themselves, I'm not going to like him. I made up my mind, I'm not going to like him. The first thing he would do when he would meet you is he would say, hi, I'm Elvis Presley, as if you were clueless. And you don't know how many people I've seen on interview say, he just melted me. There was nothing I can do. He disarmed me. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the authenticity of the person. Forget the authenticity of my portraying him. The authenticity that he had as a person. The goodness, down to earth, human nature that he had, the good-natured feeling that he had for his fellow man. And I think that he disarmed people that already had their minds made up they weren't going to like him. There's a reason that man is adored to this day.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason that man was adored, while he was alive. There's a reason he won over all the critics from, that whole thing with the style of music and all this and all that. That he was criticized for by all different types of, adults and, schools and churches, what have you. That's neither here or there. What's most important is that man was destined to be someone that this world could embrace as a hero and embrace as someone that they could truly love and fall in love with and just really look up to. And a lot of people say, well, what do you mean look up to? So, with the way things ended and everything, how could you pitch him being someone that somebody else could look up to, so to speak? So I'll tell you how. Because the good Lord wants us, in essence, to be good to people, be good to your mother and father, be good to your friends and family, love your country, and he did all the above in spades. And he was the epitome of a good old American rags to riches story that did it without gimmicks. He did it by just being instinctively who he was. And he created so much. His God-given talent that he just shared that God-given talent with people. He shared it with his friends and family.
But it was hard on him.
It was extremely hard on him.
It took a toll.
It did take a toll.
Everybody that we've ever worked with, I've lost a lot of good friends in music. Kevin DeBro, Jamie from Warrant. There's a list that very good friendships. And I told somebody one time, they go, don't you wish? I go, no, I don't, because I've been lucky enough that we've been able to walk just outside the line along with these people, but we don't take the hits like they do.
Right. And we had them for a long time. in retrospect.
Yeah.
I mean, we had him for a fairly long time. Because some of these other, some of the great other artists, they don't last as long. I think considering he was the first, the biggest, and the best, I think we had him for a long time.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that has to do with. I think a lot of that has to do with the way that he was raised. In a sense. I mean, I think he struggled a little bit near the end there with a lot of things that were going on the last few years. But I think that he was grounded enough to last as long as he did, because he was a human being. He was a pure human being that just.
I'm trying to signal my new studio head.
Yes.
Over here.
I see it too.
Which is my wife, Kathy. Is Kathy here? Next thing. We're going to bring her on as long as we're on. Do things unethical, which I love doing unethical. Okay? Whatever it's done a certain way, I will walk in and I will just say, no.
Well, that was part of Elvis's show. His show, a lot of people think that, Elvis's show was perfect. You know what? Elvis's show,
okay, on that point, getting back to you talking about the music, a lot of people don't know, and okay, we've got somebody coming on here. We're not going to break. Let me finish this one point. Producing a show like his, okay? When I started with Johnny, when I moved back from Memphis to Chicago, and really dove into it, you've got J.D. Sumner Stamps Quartet, the Southern Gospel, okay? One genre. You've got the Sweet Inspirations. So now here you have the female backup, but also the black and the soul. Put that over next to the male gospel. You've got Gershow, who now is bringing the Vegas big orchestra sound to it, and then he handpicks his rhythm section with Burton, one of the all-time greatest guitar players.
That's right.
Ronnie Tutt, who actually went on to play for Neil Diamond for 20 years.
Yes, it did.
So he literally took the sound of all that different music he grew up with, and he put it into his show.
Right.
And a lot of people don't get that. His show was very well put together, and he was very smart. He knew music, played the shit out of a piano. But I don't think a lot of people gave him the music credit, okay? Because he'd just walk in, I want to do this song, but then he'd do it his way.
Even in the Sun Record days, even though Sam Phillips was the one I was producing, and it was his studio, even then, if he did not like the way something sounded, he'd do it again. He would do it again and again. When he went to RCA, they told him, "Oh, you've got Don't Be Cruel down, Hound Dog after 30-something takes. It's fine." No, I won't do it more.
Yeah, but you as artists are hard to work with, because you're never satisfied, and you always think you can do it better.
But I think back then, I think that if he was doing that, I think it was also he was trying to put a stamp on his type of music.
Yeah.
But I think getting back to what you were saying is that Elvis, especially back when he hit Vegas, he could hear one note, or he could hear one note from one lick from a guitar, one accent from a drum that was off, and he would stop and say, "Hey," he wouldn't say, he would say, "Hey, can we try that again? And can we maybe we can make it sound like this?" He would never say, "You're wrong. I don't like that. It sounds like garbage." He would say, "Let's try it again. Let's male voices over here. Can you let them come in first and then come sliding right under them, or over them or whatever?"
He got it somewhat close.
He
knew how to orchestrate it.
Of course, but he was in charge of
oh yeah,
production.
I know.
He was in charge of it.
Gershow admitted he amazed Gershow lots of times with the way that he would things would get. American Trilogy is one of them that he and Gershow put together.
Before we bring in our beautiful young lady and guest, I just want to again reiterate to your audience, I love what I do. I love it. I do it from my heart, and just I want everyone to know that I really love him.
You need to catch this guy. Are you coming up with a show?
We're working on something
that the public can go to.
I do a lot of private shows, private events, so a lot of out of state stuff. Working on doing something public here in town is very difficult because it just is. But working on doing something public, I get a lot of people all the time that hire me, constantly say, we want to see you in town.
Yeah, we'll keep people updated on your program. He and I are kind of working on something together too, so I got sucked into the Frankie Castro. But Tabitha, if you would like to, we won't break. If you can skinny between the camera,
okay,
we would love to have you.
Well, hello, Miss Tabitha. How are you doing? Come on in.
How are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm Frankie. Nice to meet you,
Thank you
darling.
guys for having me.
I'm John. How are you?
Hi.
I've been talking with Mike on the phone.
Nice to meet you. Thank you guys for having me today.
But no, stay. She's going to talk to us.
Well, I'm lucky. I'm closer to her than you.
Yeah, there you are. I had seen one of your posts for the event.
Yes.
And got a whole. I sent a little note to Mike Quinn, and he was really nice about getting back to me. And we were chatting, and I go, well, look, we're doing our first show. Love to have somebody come on if possible. And you're ex-military, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We're in the VTRC building, which is Veterans Transition Resource Center. That's why I leave this up. This is from the other two shows I produced.
Thank you for serving.
Yes, I was. I'm Air Force. I was in the Air Force.
That's okay.
So when I found out that, I go, well, we got to have her up here and talk about what's going on. So give us the spiel on the deal.
Okay. Well, it's a Mike Quinn entertainment production.
Right.
And it's going to be held at the Bo-Op Stage Theater on the 29th of July. The show starts at 8 o'clock. Doors open at 7:30. And the tickets are very affordable for $10 per ticket. And we have local artists, myself included. And we also have artists that are traveling from LA and Texas to be here. And the event is called the Spoken Jazz Experience. And you have different artists just bringing their take on love, art, jazz, poetry, and different genres of music, meshing it and making it their own and delivering it to you. And I think we would all have a really great time showing you our interpretation of art and poetry and jazz.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting.
It is.
I mean, it's different.
It is. And I can share something with you.
Sure.
To give you a little idea of what to expect.
Okay.
Okay. This piece is, no wait, actually, let me see which one I want to do.
I'm looking for my studio crew.
Okay. Okay. So I believe this one is the most appropriate for the show.
Okay.
It's called Loaded Statements, and it goes, wait. In what way did you intend to impress or impede my senses? Wielding of words like magic of dark mystics, dripping honey-coated dialect, tongue erect with deceit as you stimulate my anatta through my ears. I feel the dopamine. God damn, it's sweet. Instant addiction and affliction to the recognition of my need for you. Desperate desire for exterior aids to complete me gave you the power to alchemize red to blue. That's just a little sample.
Did you write that?
I did write that. Thank you.
Pretty good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And,
definitely better with words than I am.
But that's just a sample of the talent that will be there at the event. There are far more seasoned poets that'll be there entertaining the crowd that night. So come out and see what they have.
Well, we'll make sure that we post on our deal about how to get in contact with you, tickets and all of that. I hope we help.
I would appreciate it.
You know,
Thank you.
Mike, I look forward to meeting Mike when he gets in here next week.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he seems like it. We've had some good talks. You're actually doing a show in Texas tonight, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I saw that on the one that I posted today.
He's always got something going on. He's into different youth poetry slams across the country. He's a really good motivator. I'm waiting to see what comes next from Mike Gwynn Entertainment.
There you go. Well, Mike, got some fans here. With that, thank you for taking the time to come up. I know this is a little far in town, but they help a lot of military families and people here. They're really, really good people, especially if you're just getting out of the service.
Yes,
the transition. They've got over 40 different, and we've got the whole floor here. So if we have military out there, it's not just the military. They help the families. There's a lot of programs here for the families, and the VA doesn't do that. So you contact Jim when you come up here, get a tour of the facility. We thank them for the use of their studios and that. They're great people. Frank, my friend.
Frankie.
Frankie. Okay. You're going to see more of this guy. And when you get a chance to see him, we'll post his shows if he's going to do something public. He's that good. He's mostly the private stuff. But you will enjoy the show. I did.
Thank you.
And it's hard. I'm the worst critic in the world. But he'll definitely take you down that road.
Thank you very much.
We'll have you guys back.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
And keep doing what you're doing. I'm not that good a word person, but those are pretty.
Thank you so much.
Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And with that, I want to thank you for being on our first show. I'm going to point my finger at the head of my production over there, who's giving me the evil eye. And we're ready to go. So, with a click, goodbye. Have a great day.